New chapter, new Bitmoji. Look how excited I am. We are ready to go to solve inequalities by addition and subtraction. When we're solving inequalities, we have to remember that an inequality is a range of values, not just one value. So for instance, if I were to say x is equal to 2, then I'm only having 2 as a possible solution. But as in number 1, I'm saying x is greater than 2. So that's all numbers that are greater than 2. That could be 2.1, 2.2, it could be numbers like 5 or 6 or 10 or 100. So there are an infinite number of values that will work to make this inequality true. So because I have x is greater than 2, I have an open circle above 2, and I'm going to the right because it's all values that are greater than 2. As opposed to the inequality number 2 that says x is greater than or equal to 2. This time we're including 2 as a possible answer because it says greater than or equal to. So it's going to give me a closed circle, and I'm going to go to the values in the right. So the difference between 1 and 2 is in 2 I'm including 2 as a possible answer, and number 1 I am not. In number 3 it says x is less than 2. So this time I'm talking about all values less than 2, such as 1.7 or 1 or 0 or negative 10. So I have an open circle, and this time my arrow is going to go to the left because I'm talking about the infinite values that are less than 2. In number 4 it says x is less than or equal to 2. So again, this time I'm including 2, so I have a closed circle, and my arrow is going to go to the left because I'm talking about all values that are less than or equal to 2. As I solve inequalities, I am going to try to isolate the variables. So for instance, in number 1 it says x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 1. So I'm going to try to isolate my variable. So I'm going to try to get x by itself. The inequality works a lot like an equal sign. So there's my wall right along the inequality symbol, and I have x plus 3. So I'm going to do the opposite operation. So instead of x plus 3, I'm going to subtract. So I have minus 3, and I have x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Now again, if I do a quick sketch of that, there's my 0, negative 2. I'm talking about all values that are greater than or equal to negative 2, so I have closed circle to the right. So it could be anything along here, negative 1.7, 0, 2, 10, anything like that that's greater than or equal to negative 2. In number 2, I have 3 is less than or equal to m minus 5. Same thing, there's my wall. I'm going to try to isolate my variable. I have plus 5 either side because I started with m minus 5, so the opposite operation is plus. And I have 8 is less than or equal to m. Now when you graph, it's easier if you have your variable to the left. So I'm just going to rewrite that as m is greater than or equal to 8. In my original inequality, the arrow is pointing to the 8. And in my new inequality, my arrow is still pointing to the 8. So again, if I were to graph that, there's my 0. I'm going to make my 8 up there somewhere. And again, I have a closed circle to the right because I'm talking about all values that are greater than or equal to 8. And number 3, again, I'm going to draw my wall along my inequality. I add 2 to both sides, and I have a is less than 7. So if I were to draw a graph, have my 7 up here somewhere, I have an open circle because I'm not including 7. It says a is less than 7, and my arrow is going to go to the left. In number 4, our inequality says negative 5x minus 3 is less than negative 4x plus 2. Now, since we've only just started inequalities, we've only done addition and subtraction today, we haven't gotten to multiplication or division yet, my goal is going to be to try to get my coefficient positive. And remember that my coefficient is the number before my variable. So there's my wall. In order to make a positive coefficient, I'm going to add 5x to both sides. And I have negative 3 is less than x plus 2. Okay, so I have x plus 2. I'm going to do the opposite operation. And I have negative 5 is less than x. Now, just like we talked about earlier, we like to have our variable on the left-hand side. It's a little easier for us to graph that way. So when we solved it, I have negative 5 is less than x, which is the same as saying x is greater than negative 5. Now again, if I were to graph that, my zeros here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have an open circle, and I'm going to the right because I'm talking about all values that are greater than negative 5. In question 5, I have 5m minus 3 is less than or equal to 4m minus 3, so there's my wall. Again, I want my coefficient positive for now, so I have negative 4m to either side, and that gives me m minus 3 is less than or equal to negative 3. Add 3 to both sides, and I have m is less than or equal to 0. Now it's okay to have 0 as a value because 0 is a number on the number line. Doesn't mean you did something wrong. So my inequality is m is less than or equal to 0. So it gives me a closed circle to the left because I'm talking about all values that are less than and equal to 0.